Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. At AM 630.
Good morning, everybody. 7:07 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. It's Brian Wilson over here. We're joined in studio today by Sherry Jacobus, a political strategist. And note, Sherry, good to have you here.
Thanks.
Neiman's still on paternity leave. Be back later this week. Look, in Montgomery County, there is a vote pending that a lot of people, well, it's raising some eyebrows, and we thought we would get hold of the Montgomery County Council President, Roger Berliner, to talk about this, because it has to do with a vote that has to do with a union. Mr. Berliner, how are you today?
I'm fine, guys. How are you?
We're doing very well. Okay, so there's a couple of things that we want to talk to you about. One is this vote that's going to take place that says, if I have correct me if I've got this right or if I've got it wrong, but as I understand it, if you own a company and you hire somebody to come in and clean your place, and at the end of the day, you decide, I really want to change companies. There's a law in place that says that you would have to hire those employees. The new company that you hire to clean your house, your building, would have to hire those employees for a certain period of time. Do I have that right?
That is the measure that is pending before our council this morning, Brian. It probably will pass. I've sort of done a little vote check, and I think the odds are that it will pass. It's a measure that has been adopted in Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York City and in the District of Columbia. But it is a controversial measure, and it'll probably pass on a 5-4 vote.
Where are you on it, may I ask?
I oppose the legislation.
And why do you oppose it?
I oppose it because there has not been any demonstrated need for this legislation. In the absence of showing that terrible things have happened, I don't believe government ought to be telling private businesses what they should do, again, in the absence of some compelling evidence that things are awry.
Well, isn't it also true that maybe if you want to switch companies, you might be doing it solely because of the employees that the one company has? I mean, how can you be forced to keep people on payroll that you don't want to? And then I have another question too. It's two-part. With the new, so a company has to hire the employees from the old company. What about the current employees of the new company? What happens to them? They just have to sit it out for 90 days?
That would be the effect of this legislation, yes. The notion behind it, and again, I'm not an advocate for it, but I want to do justice to what may be a majority of my colleagues on our county council. Again, this has been done in other major metropolitan areas, and it is the sense that our lowest paid workers deserve extra protection, a transition period of 90 days. Again, we can debate the merits of it, but there is that sense that those most vulnerable among us may require a little extra help to make sure that they have enough time to put bread on the table for their families if they are to let go of a job.
Well, and this isn't the only sort of union measure that is burbling in Montgomery County right now. Talk about the situation involving the police and how we're getting to the point many people believe that the police chief really can have no say over the officers who work under him.
Yes, it's a very complicated issue, and it's one that we are struggling to make sure that people do understand, because this is not like other states where there's been this assault on collective bargaining. Our county 30 years ago gave the police a unique bargaining right. That is, that they were allowed to bargain the effects of any decision by management. So literally, if the police chief said to them, please check your emails once a day, they had to bargain that because that had an effect on the police. So after 30 years, the police chief has said to us, this is not working. And all 9 Democrats who historically have been close to unions, who believe in unions, said this does not work for our county. It does not work for our police chief. So the county executive, all 9 Democrats on the county council, and the police chief have said, no, this is not okay, and we're not going to allow the police union to have this authority that no other police union in the state of Maryland has. but it's been deemed to be this rollback of collective bargaining, and it's a tough issue for people to understand.
All right, so on one hand, you are trying to sort of pull back some things that the unions have gotten, but in this other case, it seems to be a case where it's really a gift to the Service Employees International Union, the SEIU. It sort of says to them, look, if you're a service, employee, that we're going to protect you no matter what. I mean, and at the expense of businesses who are sort of denied the right to make a decision about whether or not it's in their best interest to keep a certain company and a certain group of employees in their employment.
There's no question that a lot of my colleagues are sympathetic to SEIU. SEIU, in my judgment, it's a very good union. It does good work. As to whether or not we should be passing legislation that assists them in their organizing, again, I come on the other side of that. But it's a fair point.
What do you say to business people? I mean, I know you're with them, but what do you say to business people who say this just is another example of Montgomery County making it difficult to operate a business in this environment? It's a very anti-business policy. Chamber of Commerce is certainly not in favor of this.
Well, there's no question that they're not in favor of it, and I understand that argument. Again, I'm trying to do justice to what may be a majority of my colleagues. Los Angeles, San Francisco, the District of Columbia, New York City. These are not small jurisdictions. All have the similar legislation and have not driven out business. So it has been done in other communities. It does not appear to have had a terrible impact on their business environment, and so that would be the response.
But as far as you can tell, as the council president, the fix is in on this, right?
I would not say the fix is in that. A majority of my colleagues have concluded that these low-wage workers deserve special protection. I don't know how you can differentiate between these particular low-wage workers and other low-wage workers, which is why I'm on the other side of this debate. But that is what animates their interest in this.
Well, we got to think about the businesses too. It's an unfortunate move, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, listen,
I understand that point of view and agree with that point of view.
All right. Well, listen, we really appreciate it, Mr. Berliner. Thank you for coming on our program this morning.
My pleasure, guys.
And the vote takes place at what time today? Do you think?
It takes place probably around 11 o'clock this morning.
And if businesses wanted to weigh in at the very last moment, how would they do that?
Well, they know how to do that, I promise you. We're getting their emails.
All right. Thank you very much. Roger Berliner, Montgomery County Council President. It is 7:15 on 105.9 FM at AM 630 W.